You're a good man. You go to church, you love your wife, you work hard, and you show up every day. You pray every day. And you have a secret that would absolutely destroy everything if it got out. You've tried to quit. You've tried probably more times than you could really count on both hands. You've deleted apps, blocked websites, made promises to God that you're never going to do it again. And a few days later, a few weeks later, it was a really good run, but then you fall right back into it. And then the problem isn't even really the porn. It's not just the porn. It's honestly the worst part is the voice that comes afterwards, the one that says, "What's wrong with you?" A real true man of God shouldn't be struggling like this. Your wife would absolutely be devastated. You're just fake. You're not being real with everyone. If this is you, I want to talk to you today. Not the version of you that has it all together. The version that sits alone at night at midnight, 3 a.m., wondering if you're ever going to get out of this. Because I work with men who have these exact struggles. And I want to say this before I go any further. You're not broken. And this isn't just a willpower problem, right? My name is Brent. I'm a licensed counselor, and I want to talk about what's really going on inside of your head whenever you're struggling to let go of pornography. Okay, so I want to give you just a picture of what's going on inside of your head, because honestly, most guys are just told that this is a sin problem, and it's just you're not strong enough, you're not disciplined enough, etc., whatever. There is a spiritual component to all of this, but I think it misses a few pieces, right? So first of all, your brain has a reward system. It releases this chemical called dopamine, right? Could be, connecting with your wife, finishing this project that you've been working on for a while, eating some really good food, just going through something where you just really enjoy it and there's just genuine laughter, right? All of those things, you get this dopamine release and others as well. But that's normal. That's what's supposed to happen. The thing about porn is it delivers a dopamine hit that's just entirely, it's bigger, it's faster, and it's just more on demand than almost any of these other things. Every scroll, every new image, your brain registers that as a reward. So let's imagine this. Your brain, let's say your brain's a toddler who discovers that screaming in the grocery store gets him candy. He's not a bad kid, right? He just learned what works. And the more it works, the louder he screams. Who's with me on this? So over time, a few things kind of start to happen here. First, you build tolerance. So what used to do it for you just doesn't really do it anymore. So you need more of it or more extreme versions of it to get the same response. Second, real intimacy just starts to feel kind of flat. Not because you don't love your wife, you absolutely do, but because your brain has been overstimulated somewhere else. There's no way that, your wife is going to compete with the thousands of images that you've looked at, right? And third, the habit stops being a choice and it becomes automatic. Like it is literally something that you're doing it, once a day, a few times a week, but it's regular. And then whenever you get stressed, you get bored, lonely, that also gets tied in too and just makes the cycle even stick more. Okay, so look, the thing is nobody decides to have a porn problem, right? Like that's just not how it works. For the most men that I sit across from, it started young, right? 12, 10, even younger, some, you have this curiosity and then it became a stress reliever, right? It worked really good at relieving stress. Something to decompress after a hard day, hard week, hard season, then somewhere along the way, it started to feel something a little bit deeper. The loneliness you didn't really know how to name, the anxiety that just doesn't really turn off, the moments where you felt really heavy and you needed a way out just for a few minutes. And the part that nobody talks about is at some point, it just stops being about pleasure so much and then starts to become about escape, honestly. You're not even chasing something good or what you thought was good. You're running from something uncomfortable. I hear this all the time. from guys in this office. I love my wife. I would never want to hurt her. And I just really hate this. I don't want this to be a part of me. And I just can't seem to stop. And they're not lying. They really do love their wives. The there's a real conflict between who they are and how they're coping with what they have going on. It's this like tug of war between their values and what's going on inside of their head. From the outside, it looks like, it's this big huge lust problem, but really from the inside, it almost always feels like, it's just really more of a pain problem, and you're coping. And the more you hide it, the heavier it gets. The shame piles up, and it's like this big huge thing. And then the distance between you and your wife and your family just grows. She can't even name it, right? Even you can't even name why it's happening. It's just happening. Okay, so here's the other thing. There's a voice that sort of comes with this, right? And I think you know what I'm talking about. A good Christian man doesn't struggle with this. A good husband doesn't really do this to his wife. I should be able to fix this on my own. What is wrong with me? That voice is shame. And I just want you to understand something about shame real quick. It's not helping you. It's absolutely fueling this cycle more. Shame doesn't pull you away from porn. It actually just drives you back into it. The more disgusted and worthless you feel about yourself, the more desperately you want relief from that feeling. That's part of the cycle. And the fastest relief you've ever really known is the very thing that you're trying to quit. And that's just this loop. It's the infinity loop over and over. So if that sounds familiar, it doesn't mean it's hopeless. It just means that shame has been the thing that's been in the driver's seat this whole time. Look, and I want to say this real quick because I know a lot of you watching this come from a faith background, and this is really important. Telling yourself to pray harder and be stronger is not wrong. Faith absolutely matters, but prayer alone is good. It's just if it was going to fix this, it would have already, right? What I see underneath this behavior almost every single time is really more something clinical. The anxiety that never gets treated, right? The old wounds that never got addressed, stuff that happened in childhood that never got dealt with. Sometimes ADHD, or you have different trauma responses, chronic loneliness that looks like everything is fine on the outside, but on the inside, it's really just not. Porn became this way of coping with all of the stressors in the world in a way for you to check out for a few minutes. Coping strategies don't respond to willpower. It takes a lot of structure, and you have to replace, really replace them and do a lot of hard work, with something better. So what does recovery actually look like? I want to tell you what it looks like, because most guys just imagine it's this white knuckling through the urges for the rest of their life. And that's just not it. And that's not freedom. That's just kind of suffering your way through it over a long period of time. Real recovery it really changes your story. It goes from I'm a monster who can't control himself to a person that's been coping with pain in a destructive way. And I'm learning something better. I'm learning how to deal with it. It's not just reframing it. It's literally just a completely different life. And as a CSET, we use what's called the task model. It's not just talk therapy. It is literally tasking out different things that you need to work on and shift. It's performables. It's things that you can do over the course of a long time. And it takes years of work. It really does. There's different stages, there's different tasks, and there's just measurable progress. And what it actually involves, just first, like, you got to get honest. Addiction lives in secrecy, and you don't have to confess it to the whole church, and everyone around you, but you do have to stop carrying this completely alone. Second, you have to understand what's going on underneath. If we never address the anxiety or the old wounds that have been going on, or the loneliness that you've been carrying for so long, we're just sort of draining the bathtub with the faucet still running. All right, third thing, you need real structure, not just rules. Filters, accountability, changing the actual patterns around when and where this actually happens. Not to punish you, but to give your brain space to find new and build new pathways. Fourth point here, if you're married, or you're with a partner, your wife or partner is carrying something too. Betrayal trauma is very real, and her healing is absolutely part of this. It's not just an afterthought. The goal here is not a man who never has a sexual thought. The goal is a man who can face the hard feelings without needing to escape from them. So look, if you've watched it this far, right? If you've watched this video this far, something in here resonated with you. You don't have to keep carrying this alone. You don't have to keep trying to manage it and white knuckling it, hiding it, and promising yourself that it's the last time. Talk to your pastor and get plugged in, and please go to counseling. You can go and pray and seek counsel and go to counseling at the same time. Get in with a CSAT and do the work. I just want to say, I've seen people walk through this and do the hard work, and the cycle can absolutely stop. It's just not going to stop by itself. If this video resonated with you, please just drop a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I definitely want to keep doing more of these videos to just be real and raw and hopefully helpful to somebody out there that's really struggling with this stuff. So I'll see you on the next one.